Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayesha Vadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sivaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, part 1, which includes, that's a heavy one. Okay, thank you. Jai Ho. This was Govinda's. Thank you. So the chapter 16, text 7, praise of King Pṛthu by the professional reciters. Is the verse there? Do you say the verse together? Okay. Titikṣaty akramaṁ vainya. Titikṣaty akramaṁ vainya. Upary akramatāṁ api. Upary akramatāṁ api. Bhūtānāṁ karuṇaḥ śaśvad. Bhūtānāṁ karuṇaḥ śaśvad. ārtānāṁ kṣiti-vṛttimān. ārtānāṁ kṣiti-vṛttimān. titikṣaty akramaṁ vainya. Upary akramatāṁ api. Bhūtānāṁ karuṇaḥ śaśvad. ārtānāṁ kṣiti-vṛttimān. titikṣaty akramaṁ vainya. akramaṁ vainya akramatam api bhūtānāṁ. Anyone else? Vainya. The lone Mataji refuses. Okay. Titikṣaty tolerates. Akramaṁ, offense. Vainya, the son of King Vina. Upary, on his head. Akramatām, of those who are trampling. Api, also. Bhūtānāṁ, to all living entities. Karuṇaḥ, very kind-hearted. śaśvad, always. ārtānāṁ, to the aggrieved. kṣiti-vṛttimān, accepting the profession of the earth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This King Pṛthu will be very, very kind to all the citizens, even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations. The king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be as tolerant as the earth itself. Please repeat. This King Pṛthu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be as tolerant as the earth itself. So, before I read the purport for this verse, I would like to read the entire chapter, because it's important to have a context. So I'm just going to read the verses from the 16th chapter. The great sage Maitreya continued, while King Pṛthu thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciters very much. Then again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages. The reciters continued, Dear king, you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and by His causeless mercy, you have descended on this earth. Therefore, it is not possible for us to actually glorify your exalted activities. Although you have appeared through the body of King Vina, even great orators and speakers like Lord Brahma and other demigods cannot exactly describe the glorious activities of your lordship. Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. Laudable means praiseworthy. This king, Maharaj Pṛthu, is the best among those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles and give those principles all protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. This king alone, in his own body, will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the populace to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time, he will also maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. This King Pṛthu will be as powerful as the sun god, and just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Pṛthu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, just as the sun god evaporates water for 8 months and during the rainy seasons returns it profusely, this king will also exact taxes from the citizens and return these monies in times of need. This King Pṛthu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be as tolerant as the earth itself. When there is no rainfall and the citizens are in great danger due to the scarcity of water, this royal personality of Godhead will be able to supply rains exactly like the heavenly King Indra. Thus, he will very easily be able to protect the citizens from drought. This King, Pṛthu Maharaj, by virtue of his affectionate glances and beautiful moon-like face, which is always smiling with great affection for the citizens, will enhance everyone's peaceful life. The reciters continued, "No one will be able to understand the policies the king will follow. His activities will also be very confidential, and it will not be possible for anyone to know how he will make every activity successful. His treasury will always remain unknown to everyone. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories and good qualities, and his position will be maintained and covered just as Varuna, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. King Pṛthu was born of the dead body of King Vena, as fire is produced from arani wood. Thus King Pṛthu will always remain just like fire, and his enemies will not be able to approach him. Indeed, he will be unbearable to his enemies, for although staying very near him, they will never be able to approach him, but will have to remain as if far away. No one will be able to overcome the strength of King Pṛthu. King Pṛthu will be able to see all the internal and external activities of every one of his citizens. Still, no one will be able to know his system of espionage, and he himself will remain neutral regarding all matters of glorification or vilification paid to him. He will be exactly like air, the life force within the body, which is exhibited internally and externally, but is always neutral to all affairs. Since this king will always remain on the path of piety, he will be neutral to both his son and the son of his enemy. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his own son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. Just as the sun god expands his shining rays up to the Arctic region without impedance, the influence of King Pṛthu will cover all tracts of land up to the Arctic region and will remain undisturbed as long as he lives. This king will please everyone by his practical activities, and all of his citizens will remain very satisfied. Because of this, the citizens will take great satisfaction in accepting him as the ruling king. The king will be firmly determined and always situated in truth. He will be a lover of a Brahminical culture and will render all service to all men and give shelter to all surrendered souls. Giving respect to all, he will always be merciful to the poor and innocent. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. The king will consider all embodied living entities as dear as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasures of his friends. He will intimately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand to all impious persons. The king is the master of the three worlds, and he is directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is without a change, and he is an incarnation of the Supreme, known as Shakti-Avesha Avatar. By being a liberated soul and completely learned, he sees all material varieties as meaningless because their basic principle is nescience. This king, being uniquely powerful and heroic, will have no competitor. He will travel around the globe on his victorious chariot, holding his invincible bow in his hand and appearing exactly like the sun, which rotates on its own orbit from the south. When the king travels all over the world, other kings, as well as the demigods, will offer him all kinds of presentations. Their queens will also consider him the original king, who carries in his hands the emblems of club and disc, and will sing of his fame, for he will be as reputable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This king, this protector of the citizens, is an extraordinary king and is equal to the Prajapati demigods. For the living facility of all citizens, he will milk the earth, which is like a cow. Not only that, but he will level the surface of the earth with the pointed ends of his bow, breaking all the hills exactly as King Indra, the heavenly king, breaks mountains with his powerful thunderbolts. When the lion travels in the forest with its tail turned upward, all menial animals hide themselves. Similarly, when King Pṛthu will travel over his kingdom and vibrate the string of his bow, which is made of the horns of goats and bulls, and is irresistible in battle, all demonic rogues and thieves will hide themselves in all directions. At the source of the river Sarasvati, this king will perform 100 sacrifices known as Ashvamedha. In the course of the last sacrifice, the heavenly King Indra will steal the sacrificial horse. This King Pṛthu, will meet Sanat Kumar, one of the four Kumaras, in the garden of a palace compound. The king will worship him with devotion and will be fortunate to receive instructions by which one can enjoy transcendental bliss. In this way, when the chivalrous activities of King Pṛthu come to be known to the people in general, King Pṛthu will always hear about himself and his uniquely powerful activities. No one will be able to disobey the orders of Pṛthu Maharaj. After conquering the world, he will completely eradicate the threefold miseries of the citizens. Then he will be recognized all over the world. At that time, both the Suras and the Asuras will undoubtedly glorify his magnanimous activities. So I thought it's important that we hear about Pṛthu Maharaj before we hear Prabhupada's purport for this verse. King Pṛthu, Prabhupada says in the purport, is herein compared to the earthly planet as far as his tolerance is concerned. Although the earth is always trampled upon by men and animals, it still gives food to them by producing grains, fruits, and vegetables. As an ideal king, Maharaj Pṛthu is compared to the earthly planet. For even though some citizens might violate the rules and regulations of the state, he would still be tolerant and maintain them with fruits and grains. In other words, it is the duty of a king to look after the comforts of the citizens, even at the cost of his own personal convenience. This is not the case, however, in Kali Yuga. For in Kali Yuga, the kings and heads of state enjoy life at the cost of taxes exacted from the citizens. Such unfair taxation makes the people dishonest, and the people try to hide their income in so many ways. Eventually, the state will not be able to collect taxes and consequently will not be able to meet its huge military and administrative expenses. Everything will collapse and there will be chaos and disturbance all over the state. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Gangayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Gurundina Taranam Paramanandamadavam Sri Chaitanyamishwaram Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavavyo Namo Namaha. We live next door to Gitanagari, which is a very bucolic, remote, idyllic countryside. And then we came to New York we had things to do, programs to attend and people to see. But we still can't understand why people live here. It's a mystery to us that the struggle for existence is so palpable. We were coming back from meeting with a friend. It was late. It was around 9 p.m. And walking down the street, we saw that there were a bunch of people, which we assume were homeless, that they were bagging tons of empty bottles and cardboard and cans, etc., etc. And one of them was just tossing clothes around. I mean, didn't understand anyway, but we had some leftover prasadam and asked him if he was hungry. And so he said, yeah, I am. So great, so here. And that was it. This is that great act of magnanimity on our part. Give him some leftovers from prasadam. This is the duty of the government. There should be no homeless people. There should not be unemployment. There should not be unhappy faces. And the king, at the cost of his own welfare, convenience, and he will tolerate anything. And that means insults. Like citizens can have an audience with the king and criticize him and tell him what's wrong with him. And the king would not take it personally. Yeah, thank you. If you can put it back. Yeah, thank you. Just like King Pṛthu took care of the old people, so do the New York devotees. Thank you. So this is the position of a king is not just power. Like, people confuse that this is, I would like to be famous or powerful or any of these qualities which are actually coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulences. We list 6 of them, but it's all of them. There's many more. And they think I should take the position of God in a small way. But it's actually unnatural for us to be situated in such position, like fame. Nowadays, even more than when I was growing up, with the advent of social media and YouTube and all these things, people become famous for no reason other than other imbeciles like that person. So this is a reason to become. I got 5 million followers. But this person is an idiot, and he has 5 million idiots following him. So what's the meaning of that? So people are famous for being famous, not for any reason. Whereas in these times, what we were referring to in the Bhagavatam, King Pṛthu was famous because he was a saint, a saintly king. And also, is valid to say as an incarnation of the Lord. That also helps, definitely. But he was righteous and kind. He would look at the citizens with the same look that a grandfather will look at their grandchildren, just thinking of their welfare, how to benefit them. And what do we have nowadays? We have politicians that look at the people as this despicable, low-class stepladder that helped me be here, but they're disposable. They're just a means to an end. So this is not the way things should be done. And you can see that the earth is compared to a cow. And the king, by his prowess, by his power, and by his piety, will be able to actually extract whatever he wanted from the earth. And just like the sun shines everywhere, even in the Arctic regions, and water is poor, is evaporated from the earth and become clouds and is dropped anywhere, even in the middle of the ocean. One may say, well, why? What's the point of raining in the middle of the ocean? But it's equality. The water goes everywhere. So the king benefits all citizens. But there is an exception. The impious, irreligious, atheists, these are not given the same benefits. Just one may think, oh, but this is too drastic. The word is draconian. Draconian means like harsh rules. So this is too draconian, but it isn't. It isn't. Just like, of course, I'm addressing mostly brahmacharis, so this example will not be appropriate, but when someone has children, and if one child behaves nicely and the other one doesn't, it's no surprise that the parents treat them differently. There is no dearth of love. The affection is the same, but the way they're dealt with is different. So the king will not hate the atheists, the impious, the rascals, the thieves, but he will treat them differently. It's for the purpose of correction. So, again, I don't want to be too political because one doesn't need even half a brain to understand the current situation of the world, which is populated by thieves and rogues and self-made people who have no good qualities, yet they want to be praised. You think, how? Why? Because we have stolen the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so we actually still think that by obtaining the same position or a similar position to that of God Himself, we will be happy. So praise is part of it. But as Prabhupada would say sometimes, first deserve, then desire. We have to grow up to obtain the qualities first. And you know what happens in Krishna consciousness? When you get what you want, which is not what you need, then you become very frustrated because it's not what you wanted. You thought it was what you wanted. And I give this example. I was invited to go to the Ukrainian Bhakti Sangama festival, a huge festival that used to take place before Russia invaded Ukraine. And nobody knew me. There were thousands and thousands of devotees. But just because I was invited, or just maybe because I spoke English, for whatever reason, insignificant and irrelevant, I was given so much praise. I was given so much facility. I was treated like a demigod, and they would put garlands on me and do kirtan and dance around and offer me whatever I wanted. And people would pay obeisances. They asked me to sign books that I didn't write. They asked me to name children that I didn't. It was crazy. And I thought, maybe subtly, or maybe not so subtly, that being famous and being praised and adored and worshipped, and this was some desirable thing. But guess what? When you get it, you feel very uncomfortable, because it's something that doesn't fit you. It's like if you go to a cheater tailor, and he gives you you want to buy a shirt, and then he doesn't have your size. He has only 3XLs, and then he puts you in front of a mirror, and then he grabs a bunch from your back and just puts it tight, and says, "It looks great on you. It's your size." But it's not your size. He's just holding a bunch of cloth in the back. So this is what happens when we try to put on the shirt of any of the opulences of the Supreme. They don't belong to us. That's why humility is considered a great quality to develop. Now, how do we develop humility? Well, I don't know. Personally, I have no idea how. But how do we try? Because humility may be confused with bashfulness, like shyness and rejecting praise and so on. But this is just part of it. It's not the whole thing. Humility means to understand one's position, that we are actually very tiny, fragmental, insignificant. And we may think in material terms, because insignificance in the material world seems like a very bad situation, but it's actually a very comfortable situation, because we fit, because that's our shirt, that's our size, not XXL, S for small, I for insignificant. That's our shirt size. And insignificance is very comfortable. It's very actually, how can I say? It feels very natural. It feels very natural. But in the case of King Pṛthu, he could not accept that, because his position, first of all, he was an incarnation of the Supreme, Shakti avatar. And he had a job to do, and a pretty tough job, because there is always, where there is someone in charge, there are people against the person that is in charge, and against the government, and against God, and against religion, in the sense of Sanatana Dharma, not in the sense of temporary religion. And this is the difference between good government and terrible government, where people are out for themselves. They want to get what they don't deserve by illicit means, instead of getting what they deserve by the proper means. So the citizens were very happy when someone is like, I used to, as a brahmachari, I would travel to India, and I would stop, usually at the time I was flying with Delta Airlines, because their hub was in Frankfurt, Germany, and there was a temple in Heidelberg, south of Frankfurt, just less than an hour away, which was so nice. It was run by a devotee, Vishwadev, and Krishna Kshetra Maharaj and Bhakti Baba Swami and Sachinandan Swami. They weren't sannyasis at the time. They lived there. And the temple president was very liberal and generous and kind. I thought, this is It's like a Vedic village. This is how things should be. Everybody was happy. There was a Prabhupada disciple that volunteered to clean the bathrooms. There were 5 bathrooms. He will clean them all by himself 5 times a day. So it was like ready for neurosurgery, even the bathroom of the ashram. And devotees were generous and happy. This is what we need. When you start from the top and you have proper ruling, then people become happy. Although, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, if the taxes are not used as an emergency, because that's what taxes are meant to be, in times of trouble and drought or scarcity or famine or whatever the emergency may be, that's when the funds are from the taxes are used to benefit the citizens. But the funds from the taxes exacted from the citizens nowadays are used from the industrial military complex to start wars in other places. And so that when there is the need, then everybody goes in debt or nobody gets anything. So what can we do from our position, from our vantage point? What can we do? Can we be so simplistic as to say, just chant Hare Krishna, everything will be okay? Maybe that's true, or maybe it's overly simplistic and thinking that we also have to do something. And I think everything begins with education. We have to educate. That's why preaching or teaching is there. We have to educate the citizens so they become more responsible and they become saintly, or at least they can appreciate the value of sanctity. And it's very difficult, I understand. A few weeks ago, we were in Govardhan, and we were coming back to Vrindavan, and my wife took a bunch of ginger candies, chewable ginger candies, just to give to kids in Govardhan and anybody. So as we were in the taxi going back to Vrindavan, she gave one to me and one to the driver. So I peeled the candy from the wrapper and I put the wrapper right on the console between the seats. And the driver peeled his and threw it out the window in a village somewhere. And I told him, no, you just wait and then you put it in the proper place. So he said, okay. And then the trip was long, so we got another candy eventually. So I took mine out of the wrapper and put it on the console, and the driver put it also on the console, the wrapper. And then when we got to Vrindavan, he just grabbed it all and threw it out of the window. That was so. This is the problem with education, that has to be grassroots. You have to start from the bottom up and teach. And it is said that Shudras, which is everybody in this age, Shudras can only learn with a stick. This is the methodology that is preferred for Shudras. And Vaishyas, they learn with bribes. And Kshatriyas learn by praise. If you praise a person, then they will be convinced. And Brahmanas learn with the truth. That's how you get them to collaborate or cooperate. So anyway, we have a few minutes left for reflections, questions. Thank you. Anyone?
Prabhu, thank you. So, I was also there at the Ukrainian festival many times, so I can relate to what you're saying. They didn't treat me the way they treated you, but I was in other places like Bangladesh, and I had similar experience as you described. So I just reflected. It struck me that fame is opulence of Krishna, as you explained, and if you're famous and people associate with you, you're attractive, then you give something to them, you benefit them. But if you are an ordinary person, this was also my experience, and then you become famous, then you don't benefit people. They come to you, but you cannot benefit, you don't have anything to offer of value. So it's very uncomfortable. This was my experience. Also very, and I remember also Damodar Maharaj saying that we have to be happy, small. We have two choices, either unhappy, small, and this is bad choice. But if we, as you said, being comfortable that you're small, then you can be happy, small. And you can avoid, save yourself lots of trouble and mental turmoil that you're not a big guy. So thank you very much.
When I was walking in this was Bhakti Sangama 2007, which is the first time I went there. Then I went for like 12 consecutive years, all the way to 2019. And I remember walking, and the devotees would pay some. Fortunately, not all of them were bewildered. So some will pay obeisances, and I was walking, and I couldn't look at. First, what I did is just I pay obeisances back, but there were thousands of them, so you couldn't do that every step. So I was walking with a devotee, and I said, "How do you deal with this? How am I supposed to deal with this?" And he said, "Well, look at it as that they see the potential within you. And that's what they're bowing down to the potential within you. But that's just potential. That's not really me. I'm sure my elementary school teacher thought I had the potential to be an astronaut, but that didn't come true. So potential doesn't mean anything unless it's realized. But I tried. It worked better, but it still was very difficult. Very difficult. Like people, their currency, grivnas, was compared to the dollar wasn't worth very much at all, and they will actually come and give me money. I mean, I'm an American. I'm working in America. I was making money. But they just wanted to give naturally, because there is a lot more pleasure in giving than receiving. There is a lot more. Okay, when there is love, even the love for a mother for a child, the mother is happy by buying a gift for the child. More than, well, I shouldn't say is, I should say it should be. Mother should be happier buying something for the kids than for herself. But nowadays, I really don't know. Probably not true. Probably hoping that the child grows up and makes a lot of money to give to her. So that's, but this is Kali Yuga. Everything is topsy-turvy. Everything is upside down, backwards. But this is the nature of getting something that you ask for, but it's not meant for you. And if Krishna favors you, and Krishna will actually do that repeatedly to the devotees, you ask for something and Krishna will give it to you. If Krishna gives it to you, you should feel very unfortunate. But Krishna will make an arrangement, so it will give it to you in a way that you will never ask again for that, something like that. It will come with so many troubles. So many troubles. And if Krishna favors you, He will give you what you need. And what's what we need? Yasyaham anugrinami harishet taddanam shana. Krishna will come and take everything away. That's a special mercy. Don't pray for that. It will come no matter what. Don't pray for everything to be taken away. That may not be the way that we learn things. That is for very, very advanced souls. Prabhupada used to quote that verse somewhat often, that of course Prabhupada is in a different category, on a different level, but he said, yeah, Krishna took away my business, took away my family, took away everything. And all I had was the order of my guru. And that gave him everything. Because Krishna is ready to give us everything, as long as we are ready to deal with it properly, which means usually entails to giving up everything we have, which we've been accumulating since time immemorial and for no reason at all. So this is Krishna's deal. Yeah. If you give up everything, Krishna will give you everything. So let's see if you're ready for that kind of exchange. It's like going to a garage sale, Yeah, when you actually see things at a garage sale, they think, oh, that's very desirable. And sometimes I've been to garage sales where people, you tell them, how much for that? Oh no, that's not meant to be for sale. We're going to keep that. This is, irrational attachment. Matter of fact, we moved into a house when we lived in California that the lady had a 2-car garage, but you couldn't actually even walk because it was full of stuff, the garage. And I said, well, we have some to store some of our cooking stuff because we had a cafe at the time, our cooking stuff. So how about we make a deal? I'll clean it up for you and make room for everything. And because she was a hoarder, she kept everything. She thought, okay, because I can't do it, so yeah, maybe. So I got the services of a friend of mine, another devotee, and we were ready. We started, and there was stuff that was completely useless, seriously useless, like broken cinder blocks, useless, empty bottles, totally useless, expired cans of stuff, just a lot of useless stuff, newspapers from 1930s, or I don't know how old they were. There was so much useless stuff, and but this lady brought a folding chair and sat right in front of us to see what we were doing, and she would say, no, not that, no, not that, no, not that. She couldn't help it. So even though it was garbage, to her it was very valuable. Of course, eventually she had to take a bathroom break, and we just threw everything inside our Jeep and just drove away. Just basically, and threw it in a dumpster and then came back for more. But this is our predicament. Our predicament is that we think we have valuable stuff. And that's why there is no room for what Krishna wants to give us, because we have all this stuff, all this greed and this lust and all these memories and all this stuff that we think, oh, yes, this is valuable. And Krishna said, well, not really. And if you give him up, I'll give you what you need. You have a question?
I like this. Sorry to admit that I have a garage full of nonsense junk at home. But thank you for that perspective. I wanted to share a tale of magnanimity, since we're discussing that. 36 years ago at Logan Airport, there was a young woman walking through the hallway, and she was pushing a stroller, disoriented, self-loathing, and she was approached by a gentleman who handed her a book. That young woman was me, and the person who handed the book was you.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you, but I was just holding the book. Basically, it was Prabhupada's book. It's like, Prabhupada said it's like a postman. We are actor. You come with news. One of your relatives died. You can't blame the postman for that. Why'd you do that? Or I come with a check. Somebody died and left you a fortune. Either way, the postman is not to be. Of course, I appreciate that. I appreciate that he actually took it seriously, and Logan Airport. I didn't spend much time at Logan Airport. Just a few days. I was running a center in Tallahassee, Florida, and I will drive up the coast and just go to different places, different airports, and distribute a few books, and then go back. So it may have happened one of those incursions. What's your name?
Chatamahi Devi Dasi.
Nice.
Thank you, Prabhu, for taking the risk.
A happy story. I remember people hitting me too. I tried to distribute a book to a woman at the Orlando airport, and she chased me with her purse. So, same activity, different result.
Hello, thank you so much for your lecture. It makes me think a lot of things. One of them is, how can someone navigate living in delusion and on planet Earth and understanding their position and giving the service based on unconditional love and not get trapped on the illusion? How can that be, still being here, but still, for example, a mother which loves her children, and she loves them so much, she knows it's going to be taken away. She knows it's not her children, but still feels the love. How can that be navigated, still rooted in the illusion, but still knowing there's more?
You're asking me how to beat Maya? How to take... Everybody has Maya. Maya has I call Maya a personal trainer. You go to the gym, but you are small and skinny, so it's not going to give you a lot of weight to lift, a lot of exercise. Or you're old, not going to tell you to stretch. So Maya has a design plan for each one of us. So for what one person may not seem like much, for you may seem like a lot. So let's say you have to deal with a child, and you want to love the child, but you don't want to love the child more than you want to love Krishna. So how do you deal with that? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote a letter to one disciple of his. There is a lot of echo, and if you can turn the volume down or the treble down. Yes, that's better. Thank you. He wrote a letter to a disciple whose young son died. and the name of the boy was Tota. And he wrote to his father and said, I heard the sad news that Tota has passed away. And first of all told him that it was sad, obviously, but that they should not lament for too long. Because this is not a spiritual connection. I mean, in some cases it is, devotees, they kind of meet on the path back to Godhead. And he said, now that Tota is gone, you should worship Krishna as your son. That was a very interesting perspective. Like, do not stop that affection that is coming from you towards your son. Just consider Krishna. Krishna has replaced Tota for you. And then at the end, and very typical Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's mood, he said, but what do I know? I'm just a conditioned soul. Like literally, after giving incredible instruction, he said, but what do I know? I'm just a conditioned soul. So this is more or less a lesson for all of us, that at any juncture in our lives, there is a twist. We can actually turn it into a spiritual event. Like if you're afraid of loving your child too much because you're going to take love away from Krishna, then you should take some measure there. But not withdrawing your love, but sharing it or giving it to Krishna as well. Because it's meant for him. All our love is meant for Krishna. You know why? Because we have an unlimited capacity to give and receive love. And this cannot be fulfilled by anyone else but Krishna. So all the love that you give to your kid can be reciprocated to a certain point, but not fully. Only Krishna can reciprocate it. Because if you don't get the whole package, you won't be satisfied. And if you don't give all the love that you have, then you won't be satisfied either. So only Krishna has unlimited capacity to reciprocate with us. You're welcome. Anything else from the peanut gallery? All right. Well, thank you very much. It was very enlightening, actually, to come back to New York. I don't think I have been here. I remember singing for Radha Govinda, but that was close to 40 years ago. I don't think I have been in front of Radha Govinda for 40 years. So it was nice to do it again. My wife noticed that Radharani is very intense because, and I'm quoting her, it's because she's actually, because Krishna is so handsome, Govinda is so handsome that Radharani gets jealous. So she's protecting Govinda. The beautiful deities, they're very kind. Yeah, I remember times where I will basically sing in the morning and then go on book distribution. I had a center in New Haven, Connecticut also for a year and a half, so I would spend half the time, half the week in New York City and just get into a subway, stop at any station, go outside, and there was always a different ethnic neighborhood. That's how New York is. The Greeks, the Jews, the this, the that, so I will just go out and distribute books and meet different people every day. Or go to the Kennedy Airport and distribute books there. And there were that was 1986 or 1987, so there were not that many devotees were distributing books at the time. It was a time of transition, and where devotees discover stickers and paintings and many other means to replace Prabhupada's books. So one day I was always preaching to the devotees, said, come on, let's distribute some books. You're not going to make devotees out of painting of a seagull pooping on a lighthouse. That's not going to make devotees. Only Prabhupada's books. And Sridhar Swami, I don't know if you ever met Sridhar Swami, the Jolly Swami. He was here at the time. There were actually 7 sannyasis living in the New York temple and the Brooklyn temple at the time. And I said, let's go out and distribute books. He said, I haven't done it for so many years. I said, yeah, it's like riding a bicycle. You'll be in your element in no time at all. He said, but I don't have any clothes. I said, I'll find something. Of course, being the New York temple, there was always so many people coming and going, and there was a room of lost and found. So I found a 3-piece suit, a gray 3-piece suit, and a straw hat. And Maharaj wore a 3-piece suit, and I found him a nice white shirt and a straw hat and no socks and Birkenstocks. That's how he went to the airport. And he said, so who do you approach? I said, well, I deal mostly with Europeans and maybe British, Irish, Scandinavians, and on. He said, well, but are there Indians and Pakistanis too? Because I speak Hindi. I spent so much time in India. I said, yeah. So there's some Air India flights and so on. Yeah, I'll deal with them. I said, you're not going to be happy. Because the Indians that come to America is to enjoy material life. You're not going to have much success. No, don't be pessimistic. Okay, go ahead. So he went and dealt with the Indians and came back disappointed. They're terrible. He said, yeah, they are. They just come to make money and they have no interest in spiritual life. They'd rather not think about that. Anyway, so many stories. Anyway, thank you very much for your patience and hope to see you all again. This time in the bucolic, idyllic, rural setting of Pennsylvania. And just it's very intense for us to be in a city. We only moved there 5 years ago, but it just spoiled us completely. No traffic, no pollution, no crime. Imagine that, right? You can grow your own food. Yeah, quite nice. All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.